Hey, I'm chatting with you today from my home office above the garage. I don't know how well you can see this, but on my shirt is my little Life is Good long sleeve t-shirt that's one of my favorites. And there's a picture of this cute little guy in a hot tub, which just outside my office and down on the ground level is a hot tub that kind of looks like that I spend a lot of time in. So I got a big kick out of watching this, wearing this t-shirt. Now, I want to address something today early on in the creation of this true joy experience discussion forum, in a sense, so that it doesn't become a distraction for you, number one, and number two, to make a very, very important point. I'm often asked, what does the true joy experience look like, number one, or are there other times that I will create people to come up to me and say, you don't look like you're so happy. You don't look like you're in a true joy experience right now. Your face kind of seems deadpan, or emotionless or flat or whatever. So I want to address these issues and these questions because it's actually very, very important and also very, very interesting. The true joy experience does not look any one way. And the whole nature of it is it's an experience, which means it's something that happens inside of you. It's a feeling, for lack of a better term. It's really way beyond what we normally call feeling. It's really more of a state of consciousness, but it happens inside of you. It's something that you feel. It's something that you experience. And yes, there is a relationship between what's going on inside of us and how we're feeling and what may be going on in our faces or our body language or whatever. But there isn't necessarily a relationship between those. There have been times where I have been feeling more joyful than I've ever felt in my life, and I happen to be in the bathroom brushing my teeth or washing my face or something, and I look at my face, and my face does look kind of deadpan, there tends to be some sort of an assumption that if you're an enlightened being or you're in a truly joyous place or you're very, very happy, that you ought to be jumping up and down with some silly grin on your face all the time, and you ought to look it. And that's certainly an option. And there are lots of times that that's exactly how I look. And there are lots of times that if you looked at me, you would think again that I'm deadpan, or you might even make up a story that I'm angry or frustrated or whatever else you might say based on looking at my face. And yet what's going on inside of me is more joy than I've ever experienced in my entire life. And inside of me, I'm in this amazing place. Now, you could say to yourself, and when I was first asked this question, I asked myself the question, isn't that interesting? Why is it that I'm feeling this incredible sense of joyfulness inside, but my face appears to be somewhat flat? And I took a look at that, and the answer doesn't really matter to me. It's just a story, whatever I come up with. It's just a possible description of the truth of it with capital T's, and may or may not be accurate. But I can tell you this, and I'll be talking more about this, that when I was in phase one of the human game, one of the things that was one of my strategies for survival was to be as invisible and unobtrusive as I possibly could be, and to try and keep myself as safe as possible, because I didn't feel very safe around other people most of the time. I didn't trust people when I was in phase one. And so I didn't want anybody to have any kind of a clue of what was going on with me. I didn't want anybody to have any kind of an opening into my world where something could happen that would be dangerous. And so part of trying to be invisible included not talking a lot and being very quiet and making my movements very quiet and slow in a sense, trying to be as unobtrusive as possible. And also, just like what they talk about poker face and playing poker, to keep my face as impassive as possible so that it would not give any clue to what was really going on inside of me. And when I was first asked some of these questions and I first took a look at this, I realized, well, there's still some power in that old pattern of that I just described to you. And so that's the explanation. But the important thing to understand is it's an experience. It's an internal experience. And we can make up all kinds of stories and have all kinds of judgments about what we may think someone else is experiencing inside based on their body language, their face, what they're saying, how their voice sounds. But it's all just stories. And deep down, there is not necessarily any kind of a direct relationship between what's going on inside and what's going on outside, although there often is. But it can also be kind of tricky. And the other piece that I want to offer is there isn't any one way that it looks, and there isn't any one way that it feels. The true joy experience is not just you're feeling exactly the same way all the time. The true joy experience has varieties. You wouldn't call them ups and downs. You wouldn't call them goods and bads. They're all welcome. They're all enjoyable, for lack of a better term. They're all true joy, for lack of a better term. That's just the term I've coined, as you know. But there is variety in it. There is diversity in it. You don't just feel one thing. So there's no one way it looks. There's no one way it feels. And it can often be deceiving as to the difference between what a Phase 2 player may be really feeling inside and what appears to be reflecting outward through their behavior and their face, their tone of voice, and whatever else it might be.